So basically, I had a few friends that used to listen to metal and to rock, and I didn't really understand what metal and rock was, kind of. So, after a while of them mentioning these bands, I kind of looked them up, and I listened, and one of the first bands that came up was Megadeth, and I listened to the Rust in Peace album, and I was kind of blown away that a guitar could make those sounds. So then I already had a guitar, and I tried to start learning.
No, I mean, it's the same thing more or less. I didn't really listen to a lot of music. It was like I was about 14 when I started paying attention to what I was listening to. And Kieran showed me some Megadeth, and I was like, oh no, this is the devil's music. I was like, nah, I don't like this. But then I started listening to, I remember Audioslave was the first band I really listened to properly.
It was probably about 10 years ago, maybe 12. My father's a very big metal fan, and we just went to this music store, and he showed me an Iron Maiden album, and I listened to it, and I got hooked from there. I was listening to Iron Maiden, Sabbath. Then over the years, you start to want to look for more things.
I started off when I was quite young. I was introduced to metal bands by my dad. My first recollection was listening to Deep Purple, actually, so hard rock, and then we moved on to metal. I discovered Slayer, actually, when I was 5, because I stole my dad's CD. I took it to school. I got into a whole lot of trouble for that. And I've never stopped listening to it, basically, and moved from thrash to death, bit of doom here and there.
From a young age, I always listened to metal. I used to search different bands on YouTube. I started off with some punk, maybe rock, like Green Day, Sum 41, maybe a bit heavier like Slipknot, and they really appealed to me. So I decided to search more and experiment on more styles, and now I like more progressive stuff and more groove.
So Daniel and I actually started the band. Funnily enough, we didn't know each other, but then I was being really loud in class, and the teacher moved me next to him, and I had never talked to him before, and kind of I was forced to talk to him at that point.
Started poking me with his pencil and shit.
Yes, I was. Anyway, then we got to talking. We found out that we kind of were compatible as friends, I guess, and that we liked the same music. And then, we started rehearsing slowly from there.
That summer, I bought a bass, and we actually started rehearsals, like me and Kieran. It was just playing Iron Man on loop for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Until we got a real drummer. And it kind of continued from there. We played our first gig, was me, Kieran, and Adam and Matthew. Mm-hmm. And that was our first ever gig. It was a school gig.
Sean was there.
Yeah, I was
in the audience.
I was a spectator.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, when I went to sixth form, I kind of was trying to meet new people because I basically knew no one, and I happened to meet Sean. And then I basically invited him to our first gig, and then after our first gig, he kind of was like, "Hey, that was good, but get better." And I invited him to an audition, and he basically joined from there.
Then later on, we decided that we needed some stylistic changes. Mainly, we were looking for a new drummer and a new singer. It took quite a long time until we found a singer, but me and Kieran were just like walking around, and Aiden and we're old friends already, and I just decided to ask him. We were so desperate. I just asked him like, "Hey, do you sing?"
I thought of yes. And a friend of ours who was there as a joke told me it would be funny if you joined the band. Lol.
So yeah, he ended up joining the band. He was utter shit.
The first practice was rough.
He was horrible, and then we just decided to record a demo of Lost Soul, and I think that's when his vocals started clicking.
Yeah. And then we had the spell of drummers and no drummers. Out of nowhere, this
Had
guy,
like 6 drummers.
this guy dropped out of the sky, came in with his beanie on it. It's like, hi guys, I can play all your songs. It's just a,
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
it was impressive.
that was it was about a year ago. And he's in the band. He's been in the band since.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, yeah, it was actually hard because especially our first gig, we played a school gig, and it was the event was called Unplugged, so it was just a bunch of acoustic guitar acts, and we had to really fight with the administration to play electric guitar.
Argue.
Yeah, we had to. Anyway, and then we finally convinced them somehow, and we played, our set, but it took a lot of convincing and arguing. And then basically our first year as a band was just school gigs, and they were okay. It was good to get some experience before having kind of real gigs, but it was kind of like we were working a lot and getting very little out of it. But then in around October
17.
2017, we organized a gig with a local punk band called Bila, and that was kind of when we started getting noticed by the scene in Malta. And then from there we just started getting contacts, and people that organized gigs used to come to our gig. They see us, they like us, they contact us, kind of the normal how
We had gigged for 2 years. We were a band for 2 years before we emerged into the mainstream.
yeah.
And it was surprising because I thought that people knew about us, but it was
Nobody
that
knew
first
about
time.
us.
It was
Nobody
only
knew about us.
where the opportunities were good, like the school gigs and such, and like you start to get noticed when you actually play venues.
And people in the metal scene actually notice you.
And the EP really helped. It was
Yeah,
that
the
was
EP was
like once we released the EP, people were like, "Oh, these guys are an actual band." Like, okay, let's.
In retrospect, I wouldn't change a thing. I feel like that the music scene and the metal scene right now is going through a high. Bands are forming, new bands are forming, bands are releasing new music. Attendance at gigs are really high. Even organizers are lately getting bands from international bands, kind of big bands, like there's Dream Theater coming soon, for example. That was kind of not unheard of, but really rare. But these last few years, it's happening a lot. For example, there was last year in May, there was a festival called Sinfest in Malta, and there were a lot of Maltese bands, okay, but there were a lot of international bands as well. Like the last band was Karakangran as well, a big black metal band. There's Sabaton coming soon as well. There's Dee Snider, which incidentally we're playing with as well, kind of. So yeah, right now there's a lot of big bands. Malta's kind of finally being taken seriously as a place where you can gig, both by the local metal bands and the international metal bands.
Even local gigs, they've seen a rise because speaking just for the metal scene, like I remember like a few years ago during the 2000s, which I don't remember, the scene wasn't that healthy back then. Like 10-15 years ago, it was really low, and kind of people didn't really pursue the scene. But I remember even when we started out, it was really hard to get a venue. It was really hard to book a venue to play, because you tell them, yeah, we play metal, and they're like, no, you can't play here and stuff like that. We have run into these kind of things.
There's still that old-fashioned stigma of if you're a metalhead, you're satanic, and and there's exactly
I don't
and
think
you,
so, man.
you worship Satan because you growl and all this stuff. There's still that old stigma, unfortunately.
But it's decreasing for sure, Taman.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
There's definitely a decrease because it's becoming more accepted.
I still think that there needs to be a lot of improvement, especially considering the fact, I mean, we're not going to consider Malta to be something like England or America, but there's still, a need for a rise.
Opportunities. There is a metal sort of a website as such, but they help out metal bands. They're called Rejects Community. And not too long ago, actually, they teamed up with these guys from Spamfest, which are a metal festival in Italy. And there was this whole poll basically between 4 other metal bands, and basically we were one of them actually. And the winner gets to play at this festival. So that was sort of like part of an opportunity, even though it's not government related. As for practice spaces, though, it's a bit of a problem. We spent quite some time.
Yeah, we spent months
Quite some time
practice
looking
space.
for a practice. And to be honest, we were really lucky that we found the one that we're in right now.
Okay.
Because there are other bands who either don't find whatsoever or spend a really long time and a lot of money to rent out.
If you think about it, there are so many bands that probably never became a band because they couldn't find a
That's-
place.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
That's really true.
Considering that every corner of Malta is a residential area.
Exactly.
And that's tough. Which
Exactly.
you
And I
either
think-
have to be an industrial area or like somewhere that's really, really far away and like you're really cut off.
Or else you all need to play with headphones, which isn't ideal at all.
Unless the government really gives metal and music scene more importance, this problem will just get worse.
Yeah, and it's not just for metal. It's the
Music
entire
in
band
general.
scene. And years ago, it wasn't that much of a problem because the music scene and the metal scene, they weren't as healthy as they are now. Because in recent years, it's really there was a spike in all kinds of activity. The problem is that more bands are forming. There's more bands and more people that need practice space and less space because everywhere is being built up and again it's all residential and there isn't a complex that's dedicated to bands or rehearsals or anything for the music scene.
When I speak to people like Ray El-Bahri, who's one of the pioneers of the metal scene and the punk scene, and he tells us, for example, that back in the day, back in the 80s, 90s, when they had practice, it was almost a party, it was almost a gig, so people would show up around their garage, they'd play with the doors open, and nobody used to complain about it. If you do that now, you're gonna get arrested. Like, that's the reality. If you play with your doors closed and it's too loud, you get arrested, so...
As far as opportunities go for new bands, I think it's pretty healthy. I mean, there's we started out really, really small. We started playing school gigs all the time, and yeah, it wasn't glamorous or anything, but you start small and then you kind of work your way up. And I don't think there's a problem with opportunities. I mean, there's no big gigs for small bands, but you have to work hard at it.
In the end, anyways, each band has to hold their own.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No one's going to have it easy.
Each band needs to make their own opportunities.
Exactly.
And that has to work for them too. I think something else which helps when it comes to opportunities is there are organizers who organize gigs with foreign bands. Like, for example, this one coming up with Dee Snider. And these foreign bands could be used as contacts in themselves, because if we speak to them and we build a bond, okay, we're going to meet them for maybe an hour or two, we'll speak to them just a bit, so we're not going to be best friends after the gig. But even just a bond and saying, we keep in contact in the future could help us out. And could help other bands out.
Exactly,
Great exposure for Maltese bands, and even for their CV, man, it's amazing. Like, to be honest, for a Maltese band to play with these huge artists,
Exactly.
even to mention Dream Theater, man.
They're huge,
If Maltese bands open up for them, man, it's a great exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it was back in the 80s and 90s, where bands like Lord Adder and Vandals, they opened for guys like Sabbath and Maiden, and it was huge, really.
Incredible, feats.
Now we did play with there was this one band, Zlatanera, and we played with them in Sinfest. They really liked that. I mean, we made friends, kind of, keep in contact.
I think the biggest challenge for us right now is just to break the local scene. to break that boundary. Besides the fact that you need to pretty much start from anew, getting contacts abroad and stuff like that. Besides the fact that it obviously costs money, it's not going to be free at all. And for people, I mean, as young as we are, we don't work, we don't getting that amount of money to regularly go abroad and really prove our worth. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be well planned. It's not something you just get up
Wake
and do
you know,
one
it's
day.
a
You know?
Wednesday morning.
That's
Hey,
it,
guys.
on a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, I guess as far as challenges go, we're trying to stay interesting, keep writing good songs, and
Yep.
keep exploring our own sound, because
Kind of pushing the limit.
yeah,
Yeah, keep
We-
fresh.
we don't even keep trash. That counteracts what I'm about to say. We don't stick to one genre. We're like we just whatever we want to play at the moment, we play whatever sounds heavy. We're just always in pursuit of something that sounds heavy, and we're touching stuff like progressive metal and like just a bit of death metal, and even our style really evolved from just 2 years ago till now.
Definitely.
So
Even now, every song is different.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a
It
good
always
thing.
brings something new to the table.
That's what we spent like 2 months writing one song. One because we're lazy, but but we try to keep it interesting, at least.
I think our purpose right now is to put on a good show every time. Like
Yeah.
a performance isn't just playing the songs properly, it's interacting with the crowd, making sure they're actually enjoying it. You don't want to see
Yeah.
5 guys up there with long hair just bobbing their heads, for nothing, and just these guys are boring, The biggest part of the performance is the interaction, in my opinion.
Yeah, the actual show.
And that's not always easy.
Yeah,
It's
I
not,
mean,
not the first time I try to hype up a crowd and they're all like, who the is this guy?
Yeah, connection is key though.
People are embarrassed sometimes as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
They're scared to go to the front of the stage or something. But bands really feed off of that. I mean, I've been in that situation when I've been in the audience and like no one's really paying attention to the band, and so I'm just like at the front just thrashing about on my own. And they're like, look, this guy actually likes what we're doing.
Yeah, so even if there's just one person at the front giving you the attention, that really creates
Yeah,
a difference.
I've had
Definitely.
artists come up to me and they say, "Man, that was really great," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because like they were the ones playing, and they're like, "Thank you for giving me the buzz to keep on playing and keep on the show going, kind of." Because it's really disheartening when no one in the crowd is moving.
the show is about the interaction. You
Yeah.
can make mistakes as long as you can get the attention of the crowd, kind of. That's why coming back to our first gig, it was horrible. We made lots of mistakes.
But people had fun.
Yeah, but people had fun, and that's
Yeah, we
kind
just
of all that matters.
Running around on
I
stage
mean-
and stuff like that.
I mean, okay, we try to play the best that we can, especially now that we know what we're doing. But as long as we get that connection with the crowd, we know that even if we make some mistakes, it doesn't matter, kind of.
That's how big bands started out, I mean, I'm naming this because I've read about it. Like Metallica in the 80s, they were like, they were really they didn't know how to play. They just went to clubs and no one really paid them any attention. But they got on stage and they were heavy and they thrashed about and people had a good time. They're like, all right, well, I didn't like what I heard, but I liked what I saw, and it went from there.
You can't expect to be good without putting in the work,
Yeah.
basically.
And it takes live experience to get good live.
Yeah,
That's true.
But you have to go about it the right way, Start out small is what we did. Some bands start out like really hard and they make it, but
You've got to be a bit lucky.
Just do not rush things
Exactly.
Yeah.
and plan everything ahead, of course.
yeah. Choose gigs wisely, choose gigs wisely.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just
Be-
because
be
it
prepared
sounds
to
good, you
take
don't
some
need
shit.
to take
Take it
it.
step by step.
Yeah,
Be prepared to take a lot of
When-
well, Lord knows we have.
yeah. When you do land a gig, when you finally have the experience and you're gigging kind of regularly, and you're playing with some bands you don't know, try and I mean, you don't need to be best mates, but try to get their contact information. That's just help for the future, kind of. So then you can organize gigs with them, and then
Exactly.
you know, just basically try to get contacts from any gig you play.
And
Yeah.
be cool to the other musicians.
Exactly.
That's the
Yeah,
number
never
one.
get a big ego. 'Cause
Be
Yeah,
ego
be
be
cool
shunned.
with the
will
other guys,
kill your reputation and your chances to improve, because
and you deserve it.
the biggest part of our, in inverted commas, success, in inverted commas, was the
Humor
fact that we spoke to people, we listened to their constructive criticism, we made lots of friends within the metal scene, within different bands, and I think we're respected for that. It's something we try to stick to. We try to remain loyal to the fan base and to the people we're playing with, because after all, you know, we're new in the scene, so we can't expect to be rock stars.
If I can name a couple of people that have really helped us, I'd like to say ex-Vandals have been like
Definitely.
the biggest help we've gotten from anyone. Everyone respects us and gives us advice and tries to help us in every way, which we appreciate, like, you know, so much. But Vandals have they've stuck with us the whole time.
And
They're always
And Club Murder too,
Club
yeah.
Murder.
And Vila.
And Bila as well. Like, I had to mention them as well.
It's funny because these bands have been around, not including Vila, because they're been
relatively
around for like 5
the
years.
people not,
So
but the
relatively
band,
new.
yeah.
But
yeah, but
especially
the
for
people
example,
are, you know, veterans in the scene. Like,
Exactly,
you know,
Exactly, yeah.
And the reality is they don't need to help us, you know. They shouldn't really care.
yeah, they're
But
just
they
like,
do anyway.
hey,
which
these,
is-
these teenagers are making a loud noise and we think it's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it's a big sense of community within just even the alternative scene, the punk scene, the metal scene. So for me, it's all kind of one thing. I
Mhm.
don't like to distinguish between metal and punk and stuff like that. It's just
It's all just music.
And the scene is small, so it's much easier to make friends as well.
yeah.
That's
And,
true.
We are Grotium, and
We play loud and fast.
This mutation, the devil's creation.